Hey everybody, welcome to a regular show day. Usually my shows were Wednesdays, but I don't usually do them this early. So this is a little bit different. But I want to thank everybody that's tuning in. And I want to bring in my guests. And today we are going to be talking about ZZ Top. We're going to be going through the records and picking our top 5. So without further ado, let me bring in Martin. And here's Pete. How you guys doing?
Absolutely. Doing fine. Doing
good, Hack. How are you?
Well, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Man, it's getting hard. It's getting harder and harder for us to get together.
This is like lunch hour meeting for me. It's like,
yeah, you squeeze me in between. Yeah, but no, it's good to have you guys back. It's always fun when you guys are on. Yeah, been listening to a lot of ZZ Top lately. Man, you know, up until yesterday, I was still changing the order. You go back and you revisit, and you're like, okay, you're thinking this one should be up a little higher, and then you listen to another one, you go, you know what, that one's actually a little bit better. I don't know how was it with you guys putting your 5 in order?
Well, for me, so because I do a lot of these ranking shows on Sea of Tranquility,
Right.
whenever I come on to do one here, I always am like, all right, well, I did a ranking show a year ago or a year and a half ago or 6 months ago, and do I still feel the same way? So I went back and watched my old show, and I was like, all right, I look at my top 5, and I'm like, I think I still feel kind of the same way. But there have been other times where I've changed them. But I'm looking at my list now, and I'm like, I might change 2 of them. I don't know. We'll see as we go. But
Yeah,
you know. But then Martin and I were talking about ZZ Top like a week or 2 ago, and we were both talking about how much we love Rhythmine, right? And it's like, and I'm like, that has kind of risen up the ranks for me in recent months, and it's a good catalog. You know, for me, there's a couple albums I don't really like too much, but for the most part, it's all top notch stuff.
Yeah,
and I have to check if I've done a ranking show with Pete on it, and then I have to check what I said on Contrarians, our show. So on that one, you know, we just pick our favorite album, and that hasn't changed for me. And I actually played it again this morning. It's just no contest at all. So my number 1 was easy, but I did switch my 3 and 4 this morning. So
yeah, well, my number 1's been pretty solid too, but everything under below that, and I got an honorable mention that I gotta, because there was the number 5 was neck and neck with another one. So. But yeah, so as we go through this, we are live, of course. I want to welcome everybody that's in the chat here. We got Ed B, we got Dale, we got Ricky Compton, Hugh Caldwell, Half Face is with us. Hey, there's Johnny Bean. How are you? Nice to see you. The Lamb is with us. Zach Thong. If you guys want to, in the chat, throw a bunch of question marks in front of your question if you want to contribute as we go through this, and I'll be able to see those right away. Alrighty, here we go. So let's well, Martin, you're right next to me, so we'll go Martin and then we'll go Pete. So what have you got for number 5, Martin?
Okay, well, I'm gonna start off topic and show you just a cool thing that I have. First of all, this is your Welcome to ZZ Top kit. It's an old scrappy cardboard box, and it has in it album flats for all the albums up to Tejas, plus big foam ZZ Top letters to hang up. Kind of cool, eh?
Oh, yeah.
And it's got a Tejas sticker, a ZZ Top for President sticker, instructions on how to hang up your store display, because that's what those letters are, right?
Right.
And then it's got what is this one here? A big Tejas poster, It's here, the new ZZ Top album, and tape. It
And
says,
tape. Yeah, a little
and
date.
yeah, just and then just basically album flaps with no record in them for the other things. Actually, here's two more other cool things. A cool laminated with the hole in it at the tops to hang in your record store, right? Your two-sided ZZ Top.
So Martin, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that is like the coolest box of stuff ever. And I'm thinking my wife would probably say, "You're not keeping that box of junk, are you?"
Yeah, exactly. And look at this, a big, huge 3-panel Tejas poster.
Wow.
It as well. So, but as these things always go, hang on, let me just close it up here. As these things always go, my favorite part is just the rustic label on it. I just think that's the coolest thing, right?
Yeah, that is cool.
You're welcome to ZZ Top Tejas Kid. All right, so my number 5, this might shock a few people. My number 5 is Tres Hombres. This was really tough doing this, and it almost dropped off from my number 6 and my number 7, but it's here. I know it's crazy. And I'm looking at it again. I looked at it this morning, and the reason it's not higher up the list is I'm not a big fan of straight blues from ZZ Top. So have you heard Jesus Just Left Chicago and Hot Blue and Righteous kind of bring it down a little bit for me? And LaGrange. I'm just so sick of LaGrange, and it's so simple anyways, but love to death. Waiting for the Bus, I like a lot. Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, love to death. Masters of Spark, possibly the greatest song they ever did. Same with Precious and Grace. There's 2 songs on here that are way up the list. And I love Move Me On Down the Lines, the Stones one, Chic, the funky one. So it's a great album, but be warned. I've said this many times. ZZ Top is possibly my favorite band of all time. So I'm gonna have some passionate, weird views about ZZ Top. So don't slay me on this one, but there you go. Number 5, Tres Hombres.
Wow, interesting. More about that later.
I kind of thought that was coming.
Oh yeah, you saw that one.
Well, I mean, I spend a lot of time with Martin, and I know how much he really loves the latter part of the catalog.
Right.
So I think for a lot of folks who maybe hold the earlier part really dear to them, and I know Martin likes that as well. He has spent a lot of time with the newer albums, which maybe a good chunk of the audience just never bothered with, which is a shame because they were all really, really strong albums. But
yeah, that's true.
Well, I'm going to go with Degueo as my number 5. This basically has stayed in the same place as it did when I did my album ranking, a year and a half ago. And this is the album that kind of got me into the band. I was already familiar with them, but this is like the first album that I really wanted to own, on the strength of hearing Cheap Sunglasses on the radio. I mean, how cool a song is that? But there's so much, I Thank You is great on here. I'm Bad, I'm Nationwide. This is a really good introduction, I think, to this band because it's gritty, it's bluesy, it's ballsy, it's got a lot of heft to a lot of the songs. Just so Manic Mechanic is such a cool song, and I love Billy's guitar tone on this album. I love his guitar tone in general on just about anything, but this is just really cool. I like the production on here. The cover's kind of cool, and it's my number 5. I dig it.
Nice.
Very cool. Wow. You know what, Martin?
Mm-hmm.
I had the same experience as you did.
Okay.
Is number 5.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Because I had that higher, and I went back and I listened to it, and then I listened to my other ones that I was, in my list, and they were just a little bit better,
Okay.
and this was much, much higher. It's got great songs on it, of course. Waiting for the Bus is awesome. Beer Drinkers, Hellraisers, Move On Down the Line is great. It's a record sounds great. It's 3 guys plugged in amps, no frills, straight up ahead. It's a fantastic record. There's not a hell of a lot to be said about it. The guitar tones on it are really good. It's that down and dirty. You were saying you're not a huge fan of their blues. I absolutely love their blues playing. I think Billy's one of my favorite sort of rock blues players going, and he nails it here. And one thing, and I don't know if you guys get this, but you got the two vocalists, which nobody talks about their vocals because their vocals are actually really good. I really dig them. I mean, they're not, they're not operatic or anything, but they're just they're the character of their voices is really good. Does Dusty Hill not remind you of C.F. Turner from?
Yeah,
We've talked about it before. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so it's not just me, right? Because it's like, man, that guy's like the C.F. Turner of ZZ Top, So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in. But yeah, no, for me, Tres Hombres is my number 5 pick, and like I said, it would have been higher. But when I went back and I listened to my other ones, they just seem to be a little bit better. Great album, though. I mean, there's, it's fantastic. But there you go. There's my number 5. All right.
All right.
Number 4.
Okay, number 4 for me was my number 3, but I did the last minute switch. I'm going with Mescalero, their second to last album. And, I'm looking at this thing and comparing it to Tres Hombres. It's got 17 songs as long as each of the 10 songs on Tres Hombres. There's a lot of music on here, which is fine by me because Mescalero is one of their greatest songs of all time. This album is so extreme in its production, but it's also funny. I think it's their funniest album. It's just a laugh a minute as you go on. It's just the arrangements, the silly singing. It's got the actual true Spanish song in here, the Que Lastina. And as you get towards the end, tracks like Dusted and Liquor. I mean, Liquor is just like a lost classic way at the very end of this. It's hilarious the way that thing is put together. And what a great lyric too. And Dusted, I believe Dusted is the one that's Dusty singing that. Bunch of stuff in the middle is really cool too. It's just a very extreme, interesting, laugh a minute, super entertaining. 17 songs. They're all real songs, which is kind of cool. No little short things. I think Crunchy is a little bit of a different one. Just an endlessly entertaining sort of ZZ Top album. And if I may say one more thing, I think La Futura is like 2/3 as long as this, and all the songs on La Futura besides Gots to Get Paid, which they didn't even totally fully write. Every song on La Futura is essentially on average worse than every song on here. So La Futura is just like a weak version of Mescalero, but they go together in certain ways. It was disappointing in that it was short and the songs weren't as good. So there you go.
Yeah, I like La Futura, but yeah, I agree with you. But both of those albums, actually, all of their albums post like the early '90s are just great examples of like Texas, like blues metal. It's like, I mean, you listen to this music and you can just feel like the Jack Daniels like dripping down the back of your neck or something. It's just so gritty and grimy. But that's what you want from these guys. Give me that stuff any day over like Afterburner and that whole period. So I know some people love that 80s stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah.
For me, I'm gonna go with Fandango. I know it's half live and half studio. To me, this was one of the biggest missed opportunities ever because I think this could have been a fantastic full-blown ZZ Top live album from the 70s, which we really never got.
No. Yeah.
And B, it could have been perhaps one of their best, if not their best studio album, because the strength of the studio stuff on here is amazing. So it's almost like, guys, make up your mind, do one or the other. As it is, it's still really good, but I almost feel like this should have been 2 separate releases, one a full-blown live album, one a full-blown studio album, and you have 2 absolute gems there. But yeah, it's great songs. I'm a sucker for live concert shots on an album. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. And they look cool as hell. And again, Billy just rules, and Dusty rules, Frank rules. I mean, this is just really cool. This is one of the big what ifs, I think, for me in rock and roll history. It's like this could have been 2 great things and not just one really good album.
The greatest side of ZZ Top ever, right? Except I think I'm not a big Tush fan. To me, Tush is there taking care of business. It's like,
yeah, I agree. Yep. And we've heard it a million times. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yep.
They were a tight little band. There's a really good video on YouTube. You know that Rock Palast show in Germany?
Yeah.
I think it's 1980.
80, yeah.
Oh man, that is really, really, and They're not playing the matching guitars. It's still back in the day when they were still a little more raw. You got Billy playing that Les Paul, and they're doing all those moves. If anybody's not seen that, go check it out. Rock Palace, ZZ Top, 1980.
Yeah,
It's
kick ass. Yep.
It's awesome. All right, so my number 4 is something a little more recent. I'm going with Rhythmine.
Yeah.
Man, this is a good record.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's like Billy Gibbons on steroids. That tone is monstrous, but the beauty of it is he's still playing. It's like he went back to like 1974 or something. He's playing that same old style, that same old groove. There's no frills on this record. There's no sound effects or synth stuff. It's straight ahead, but with the guitar a lot more immediate, a lot more heavy, and just down and dirty with some really good heavy guitar playing. This songwriting on this reminds me of, again, the real classic ZZ Top stuff. The highlights for me on this record, Rhythmine, is that the title track is great. Bang Bang is great. Hairdresser, I love. She's just killing me. I mean, and there's a blues on there that's like a heavy kind of odd blues, but it's great. I love that Vincent Price blues on that record, which is very cool. It's this of their more recent records is definitely my favorite. I mean, this record could have come out in like 74. It's like a heavier version of something they would have done in 74. That's the impression I get from it. And of course I love the classic ZZ Top. So yeah, Rhythmine is just fantastic. If anyone's given up on ZZ Top after Eliminator, if you're going to go listen to one record, I would say go listen to Rhythmine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well put. More on that later. My number 3 is DeGueo, which came out like this, and then you got the album cover inside it, so it had a cool little in through the outdoor thing going with it, right? I kind of checked this out again and realized it's just such a cool record because the production is amazing on it. It's got a little bit of that eccentric sound on it. I thought I would have it down in a lower slot because I'm not crazy having them cover anybody for that matter. But I Thank You and Dust My Broom are both pretty entertaining, so they've done a good job with that. I'm not a big fan of She Loves My Automobile, which our band actually played live, believe it or not, in the 80s. We did a few different ZZ Top songs, but Esther Be the One, Cheap Sunglasses, Low Down in the Street, Hi-Fi Mama. But basically the second side completely redeems this record and makes it really, really cool to me. This is the one after the big layoff, right? Where they all kind of went out and found themselves kind of thing. Fool for Your Stockings, Manic Mechanic. It's just all got this really kind of close, cool, intimate, but well-recorded feel to it. And love that album cover. That's got to be the best ZZ Top album.
Yeah. Great one.
Very cool. There you go.
Cool. So I'm going to come upon the first switcheroo that I did from my original list of a year and a half ago. And I'm going to go with Rio Grande Mud.
Mm.
Good early one. There's the guys in the band before the big long beards, right? It's almost hard to envision them looking anything but. There's some great stuff on this album. This, again, is that early gritty ZZ Top that I love so much. Just Got Paid. Cocoa Blue is so much fun. You got Whiskey and Mama. What a heavy song. You forget how heavy some of this stuff really was back then. Barbecue is so much fun. Apologies to Pearly. I mean, it's classic early ZZ Top. Maybe doesn't have all the hits that the other album that I'll talk about in a couple minutes, but I still think it's quite good. For me, the first 3 are just so excellent. And that's my number 3.
Yeah, it's a good record. Alrighty, so for my number 3, this is going back to 1976. Tejas.
Right.
Now, for me, the bad on this record, or what I'm not crazy about, is the production on this record. To me, it's kind of flat sounding. but and if you notice on this record too, Billy's playing a lot of clean guitar, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a lot cleaner than the records.
I think he was playing a lot of strats around that time, Hack. If I'm
Yeah,
not
it sounds like a Strat. Yeah, it sounds like a Strat. Now, again, this is something that I noticed on this record. There's a couple of songs in here that really remind me of Rolling Stones tunes. It's Only Love and She's a Heartbreaker. Doesn't that kind of give you like a Dead Flowers type vibe?
Yeah, good idea.
You know what I mean? As soon, it's like right away, I'm like, wow, like to talk about influence. And then I actually went back and listened to Dead Flowers. I'm like, if you listen to those side by side, they're pretty similar. But yeah, the guitars are a lot cleaner on this. But it's got some of my favorite ZZ Top tunes on it. Pan Am Highway Blues, absolutely love. $10 Man is insanely good. That is such a great freaking groove on that tune. That's, for me, that's the best track on this record. Yeah, like there's some the latter songs I think on this are generally like better. Avalon Highway is a great tune. Rested for Driving Blinds is a good song. But man, that $10 Man, that groove that they're laying down on that, like this, when these guys, when they hit a groove, and there's another example that's similar, which I'll talk about in a minute. But when they hit a groove, it's just there are no words. It's so locked in. It's so tight. It's just a great thing to listen to. Because when they're on these, especially on these early records, when these guys are hitting a groove, you're looking at three guys in a studio. They're recording live off the floor. There's no BS. It's a live band, and that's the vibe on more records than others. But you get it on a lot of their early records, I find. And yeah, $10 Man is fantastic. The other thing, which kind of comes out in left field on this, Asleep in the Desert, that instrumental.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, where did this come from? It's
they should have done more like that. I would love to have heard something like that on every album. I mean, otherwise I would have not had any idea that Billy would have something like this in his arsenal, like to come out with something like this completely out of left field. And it's absolutely beautiful. But it would have been cool if they had done some more stuff like that. I agree, Pete. But Tejas is my number 3. Fantastic record. Okay.
All right. My number 2, I'm going with Rhythmine, which I've always liked. People know I like this album. It is super heavy. Everything Hack that you said is absolutely true. And later on, again, this is another one like Deep Purple Abandoned. Go to the end of Deep Purple Abandoned. There's some really good stuff at the end of it. This is the same kind of thing with She's Just Killing Me. My Mind Is Gone. Humbucking Part 2. I mean, the last track is just called Humbucking Part 2. You think it's going to be just some tossed off funny instrumental. It's a raging heavy ZZ Top song with vocals, right? It's really good. So the end of this is almost better than the beginning. And Hack, what you said about Vincent Price Blues as well. I mean, my whole idea was ZZ Top, Foghat, Clutch. Is this? I think I even did a episode of my podcast, History in 5 Songs, on this idea of making the blues interesting for metalheads, right? So that's what ZZ Top does. So that's why I don't like their really conservative blues. But you listen to Vincent Price Blues, and it's just so there's it's just a wall of sound. Yeah. This is the one, again, I was trying to look up a number of things, but this is the one that has Greg Morrow drumming on it from Joe Hardy, Joe Hardy's go-to man. And the drum performance across this album is absolutely just a clinic in drumming. He's so good. But yeah, just really heavy album. Like you say, great guitar tones. It's my favorite of that later period. I've got one that could have been an honorable mention, but I think people know by now that they should be checking out Rhythmine, right?
Oh yeah.
That is a hidden treasure for sure. Yeah.
That would probably be my number 6 if we were to do that. I like that one quite a bit. That's easily my favorite of the latter period stuff. But my number 2, which, like I said, moved up from number 3 from when I did this exercise, a while back. Something that Hack was talking about before about how, early on these guys, it's a power trio in the studio, guitar to amp, no BS, right? No
Mhm.
sweetening, no nothing. And I simplicity of the first album.
Yeah.
That's first album. And I like the blues stuff on here because I think you guys are terrific at playing that sort of thing. But again, there's some good heavy stuff on here. I mean, Brown Sugar is arguably my favorite ZZ Top song of all time. I mean, you know, you got that wonderful bluesy, cool guitar stuff he's doing at the beginning, and then it just kicks in. It's just like the groove in that song is just like never ending. Man, just
That's
going
got
down to Mexico. What's it? Just,
best guitar tone. That's
it's just a Les Paul into a Marshall, right? I mean, it's just like it's awesome.
Insane.
Certified blues. Oh, I mean, there's just so much good stuff on here, and just got back from Babies. I mean, it's just I love it. I love it, and I love the way this album sounds. And you know, this album doesn't seem to get enough love, I think, from the ZZ Top fan base, but I always really dug it quite a bit. And it's amazing how old this album is. You know, I mean, we're talking basically the dawn of the 70s, and boom, they put this out, which was unlike anything we had heard at the time. So I dig this a lot, and I find I'm loving this album more as time goes on. I don't think it'll ever quite take over my number one, but number two is no slouch, right? So
yeah, that's got some of the best guitar tone. And again, no frills. I mean, that is no frills. You know, and just got back from Baby. Like those two, Brown Sugar, and those are two of my favorite ZZ Top tunes. Yeah, and either one ever get any airplay? I don't think so.
No, Tres Hombres is gold, Fandango is gold, Tejas is gold, Higueo is platinum, and then I think El Loco is gold, and then we've got Diamond for Eliminator, and then I think it's 5 or 7 times platinum for Afterburner, and then I think it's 2 times platinum for Recycler, platinum for Antenna.
Wow.
And I don't think they have any certifications after that. I think Antenna was the last one.
I would say other than Neighbor, there really isn't any like single material on here. That's probably the only song that, you know, could have been perhaps, but the rest of it is just, I don't think there's any like really big potential song on here.
Francine's on the second one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on.
So that's kind of their first hit, right?
Yeah.
Alrighty. So my number two, it's already been talked about. And this was one of the ones that, again, after listening to my 5 again, this one prepped up quite a bit. And I'm talking about Rio Grande Mud. So this is ZZ Top. Basically, the record, it's ZZ Top doing what they do best. It's great blues, great boogie. This record, I do really like the production on it. Because it gives you that vibe of, again, the 3 guys in a room type of thing. It's a very, very intimate sounding record. It just literally sounds like they're just plugging in and they're just playing. And speaking of Francine, it's on this record. There's some really good tunes on this. Francine, Cocoa Blue, Chevrolet, Sure Got Cold, After the Rain. There's another amazing blues. I mean, they've got, again, I love their blues stuff. Not all of it, but most of it. And it's just, again, it comes down to Billy, because his playing is amazing. And when I was talking earlier about that groove with $10 Man, is there any better groove song on the planet than Just Got Paid? I mean, that is just insane. It's on, again, I keep referring to YouTube, but it's on YouTube. There's a thing with Joe Bonamassa where he does a medley where he does Just Got Paid, and then he goes and
kills it. Yeah.
Oh man, dunk 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 dun and he goes into Dazed and Confused, and does a little bit of White Snake, Still of the Night, and it's like 10 minutes long, but it is some of the coolest playing. And check that out. Joe Bonamassa, Just Got Paid. You'll find it. It's great. Yeah. And I mean, that song is that is a tricky riff to play, because it's a drone off the E. You got to keep hitting the low E. That's a hard song to play. But again, it gets right back down to, man, that groove, that don't, like the drums and the shuffle and the bass. It's so tight. and so good. That's for me. The two things these guys do really good is they groove, and the groove and the blues. That's for me. That's what ZZ Top is all about, and it's all over this record. So yeah, Rio Grande Mud. That's my number 2.
Another
All
great
right.
group is Heard It on the X, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, my number 1, I went with Tejas, which is the number 1 I went with when we did the Contrarians episode. I think the production on this is like intentionally obscure and flat. Like when you hear those drums kick in for It's Only Love and you hear that ploipy John Bonham bass, but it's very cardboardy, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of like sucked into the whole atmosphere of this record when that happens, because they're trying to make a smaller, cleaner, less heavy sound on this, yet the songs are written with riffs, which is kind of cool. They sound like a tiny band in a matchbox sort of thing, and I love it. I mean, Arrested for Driving While Blind, which is like a blues crossed with a heavy blues, like a Sabbath blues almost, right? El Diablo, kind of the same thing, just this weird little dark doomy riff, but it's all very quiet, mellow sort of thing. Snappy Khaki is really cool. So this is where Frank's discovered that weird drum riff, that the drum thing he's doing. There's a little bit of I think on It's Only Love, but definitely Snappy Khaki, and definitely Hack, like you said, $10 Man is that same drum riff, hook, rhythm, whatever you want to call it. Love it, and I love Asleep in the Desert. All of side 2 as well. I actually rechecked this morning, and there's not a single song on this album that I got lower than like a 7.5 or an 8. So just love everything about it. The mystique, like I say, I do like the strange production style to it. There's your big gatefold that comes out, right? Triple gatefold they did for it. So yeah, there you go. Tejas has long been my favorite. I think it's the first time they did something kind of out of the box and artistic, a little bit daring. Because before, they were coming up with all this great bluesy / hard rock and all that, but the productions they're just trying to get better and better and better kind of thing. But they just tried to do something different, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely different than what they've done. Yeah, I'll give you that for sure. Yeah. All right, what do you got for number 1, Pete?
My number 1 is Recycler. No, just kidding. My number 1 is Tres Hombres. Not only is it my favorite ZZ Top album, I think it's pretty much my favorite album from that particular year. How can you not love an album that's got that delicious spread in the gatefold, right? I mean, come on. Yeah, I mean, there's too many classics on here for me to deny, and I like the blues stuff. I like the hard rock and stuff on here. Waiting for the Bus, Jesus Just Left Chicago, Beer Drinkers, Hellraisers, Masters of Sparks. Is there any album that starts off with 4 tracks as strong as that?
Yeah.
I don't know of too many. And there's, a lot of other greats. The Precious and Grace is so heavy. Move Me On Down the Line, so much fun. Yeah, LaGrange, I've heard a million times. I don't, whatever. Have You Heard is cool. I just love the whole album. Love the production. Love the playing. This, to me, if I never heard another ZZ Top album in my life and I just had this one to take with me wherever it is I'm going to go, I'm okay with that. It's just great. Just love it to death. And another one of those albums, too, that I think as I've gotten older, I love even more. Sometimes your taste as you get older, I'm not saying they change, but they get a little bit more refined. And there's certain, especially with me with music, there's just certain records that just like tend to resonate with me more and more as the years go on. That's one of them, without a doubt. I never would have said 10, 20 years ago that I would rank this up there with like some of the best Zeppelin albums or some of the best Sabbath or Deep Purple albums, but I do. I mean, that's how much I love this album.
Yeah.
And I'm shocked both of you had it so low in your top 5, but that's okay because we all hear things differently, right? So,
well,
I would put Master of Sparks and Precious and Grace, I would put in my top 4 ZZ Top songs.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Along with Nasty Dogs and Funky Kings, and probably Heard It on the X.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it was higher, but I don't know. Ask me tomorrow, it'll be all different. Okay, so my number one, and this was already mentioned, the Guelo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's it's just got it just has for me the my best collection of songs. Really, is that's basically it. It's one of my favorite ZZ Top songs of all time. Is I Thank You. I mean, those lyrics are priceless. It's just I love their sense of humor, man. And yeah, Fool for Your Stockings is a great blues. Low Down in the Street, Cheap Sunglasses, a class, of course. Um, one of the standout tracks for me, and the song is just so goofball and odd and makes no sense, but I absolutely I cannot get past Manic Mechanic. I love that song. He's hitting the ninth chord. There's this crazy drum thing going on. I don't know. I love that tune. Always thought it was really, really cool. Like, it sounds like it literally. It sounds like he's just goofing around, and then he's just doing. Oh, so he's talking. It's like, but you put it all together, and it's such a really cool song. Man.
Fun, yeah.
It's a fun
I
song.
think Esther Be the One's my favorite off of this. That is such a cool, tasty, classy song.
But the production on this I think is great. It still has. Oh, cool! It's still basically the three guys plugging in. They're not getting carried away. They're already starting. You can see they're bringing in outside elements and starting trying to flesh out their sound a little bit. But as they would do, unfortunately, I think a little too much, especially around Recycler and Afterburner period. But that's just kind of starting to trickle in a little bit, using outside stuff. But the core of this record, it's still the three guys, and yeah, just it for me of the records, it's just the best collection of songs. And yeah, 1979, and a couple years after this, they're up
Huge,
Terminator Land.
huge.
Now, none of us picked their diamond selling record. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
It's fine for
Pretty
what it
simple,
is.
straightforward. I mean, it's very well done, and it's actually pretty heavy too. I mean, it's heavier than the previous three, at least, right? In context of the times, even, right? So our band in the 80s thought we were clever, and we would only play the two heaviest songs from it, right? It was a huge album at the time, but we played Bad Girl and She's Got the Six, or I Got the Six, whatever it's called, Got the Six.
Yeah. We play Give Me All Your Lovin'. I just did it last Saturday.
Yeah.
Cool.
People know let me ask you guys, if this album wasn't as huge a seller as it was, with every song played on MTV ad nauseum and every song on the radio ad nauseum for those couple of years, would we look back on this album? I'm talking about us here. Would we look back on that album a little more fondly today than we do because of that?
I don't know. It's so straightened out and so repetitious, right? And so kind of the same uniform throughout,
Because what the earlier records, and I think pretty much all of us are in the same boat. What all our albums had in common is it had three humans playing instruments. It didn't have any programmed digital effects. There was no drum machines in any of the the records. I mean, if you take that element out of it, if they took those songs and did an arrangement where it's just the three of them playing it and got rid of that stuff, I would say probably I would like that record more, because that's what turns me off right away. Yeah. And when I hear the in the background, like that just killed the song. It doesn't matter what you throw on top of that. You got that little pulse happening in the background, and that's it.
Talk about them reading the general public, though, to do something like that, and it just immediately caught on, right? It's like
they milked that for 3 records. They kept going back to that, right? I mean, it was Recycler, it was Afterburner. They just kept going back to that same pond, But I read something really interesting. In the early 80s, Billy Gibbons went to a Depeche Mode concert. and he kind of, and not knowing what to expect, and he basically sees like with 3 guys on keyboards and somebody singing, no drums, no nothing. And apparently that's what kind of planted the seed for him to start bringing in synths and stuff to the band.
Plus,
And
there was this engineer guy, Lyndon Hudson, who had a lot to do with it, right? Putting it
oh,
together.
okay.
So those guys were working. This guy was a real tech head guy, and they worked together, kind of putting the demos together. There's a whole long drama about all this, how he was kind of cut out from the credits, and then he got some compensation and credit later on, but he's not sort of credit on the album. That's the funny thing about ZZ Top albums. The credits are really they're sparse. They don't really tell you at all what's going on when it comes to who's playing there, right?
Like when you mentioned that wasn't Frank Beard on Rhythmine, that was news to me. Was he going through some issues at that? I know he's had issues.
Well, see, every time I told Pete this as well, every time I have to think about ZZ Top or talk about them, I go on the internet and try to find even more about any of this, because I actually went and played Mescalero again. And for the life of me, I should know this, but if they keep it so secret, I don't know who's playing drums on Mescalero, but it actually sounds like Frank a lot more than Greg Morrow, who's on the other ones. Pete and I just talked about this. Greg Morrow plays on Billy's stuff, and he plays on the 2 Kim Mitchell albums, Ain't Life Amazing and Itch. So you can hear that Rhythmine drum sound and all that style on those two Kim Mitchell albums, right? Because it's Joe Hardy's right-hand man, right? This Greg Morrow has played on millions of things. But I don't know, I don't know who's drumming on XXX. And then I even tried to look up, because I might do an episode of my podcast on this electronic drum thing. I was kind of researching it this morning. This is mostly electronic drums, but is it all electronic drums? And then you get into the issue. There are use of electronic tom-toms, there's sampling to come up with snare or bass drum sounds, and then there's programmed drums. So there's all these different things. And with ZZ Top, I did see some quotes this morning talking about, like Terry Manning talking about, he just confirmed it for me. He says it's so complicated. We mix so many things together. It's almost impossible to tell what makes the drum sound, starting really on Eliminator and then going all the way up through the RCA years. It's completely, it's quite a mystery. And there's really probably, it would take a long answer to find out who's doing what. But I would really love some clarification on exactly where we actually hear Frank doing his thing. Because the Greg Morrow one, I'm sure about, because I even asked Billy myself. And he confirmed it. He was probably a little shocked and couldn't lie about it, or didn't want to lie, or maybe he doesn't lie. We know he makes up tall tales, but he didn't lie. He just absolutely the great Greg Morrow, whatever, right? So yeah.
We should mention too. I mean, of course, we lost Dusty Hill a few weeks ago. Rest in peace, Dusty Hill. Fantastic musician, fantastic singer, great. I mean, major part of this band. This show's been in the works for weeks, so in the interim from planning it to doing it, we lost Dusty. So speaking of Dusty, is there any, I mean, did he, or is it assumed that he played on all their tracks, or would they
definitely not? There's electronic bass, there's Billy playing bass. There's that's another mystery, like where exactly is there Dusty, where is there not Dusty?
So that makes you think, like, is ZZ Top a band, or is it a Billy Gibbons, solo project with,
Yeah, I mean, at times it was. I mean, at times they didn't get along that well, and Billy was a little bit of that, I'll just do it myself. A lot of bands do that, and there's even good instincts to that, right? I mean, you see Van Halen, Eddie playing the bass once in a while. You see in Kiss, Paul would play the bass once in a while. Paul is playing the bass on I Was Made for Loving You, right? So it's not always negative instincts, or somebody's not around or whatever, or it's too far to travel or something like that. But yeah, ZZ is one of these funny ones where, because starting with Eliminator. So it's very easy to replicate bass through electronics, through synthesizers, and even through keyboards, right? I mean, I've been re-looking at my Max Webster book. I'm going to put it back out again and looking at all that. And you see, you see at times Max Webster doing keyboard bass. You see guitar riffs. People are saying, I can't believe that's not a guitar, but that's Terry doing that, stuff like that, right? So, but ZZ's the textbook example of how to create this sound using a lot of technology.
Yeah.
Like this one here is one of my favorite ZZ albums. And this, I mean, I'd have to go through it carefully, but there's definitely program drums on this. There's definitely got to be sample drums on this. And I think there's people hitting electronic drums on this too. So those are 3 different things, right?
Yeah.
Killer album though. This is like kind of like a rhythmine, right? Billy's just giving her on this album. But I think this is one where people say Billy kind of made the whole thing possibly. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, so start with you, Martin. What do you got coming up on your Contrarians channel, or what are you coming up on your Bookwise? By the way, Martin, I have a link to Martin's website below if anyone's interested. Go ahead, Martin.
Actually, yeah, martinpopoff.com for all the books. One new thing happened. Yesterday, I got paperback copies with a different design, but it's same content. Paperback copies of Limelight, the second of the Rush trilogy. And nothing really planned for Marco and myself for Contrarians. The last thing we did Heart, we did Budgie. Like I say, I'm kind of figuring out what to do for my next History in 5 Songs podcast, but the last one just went up. It was examples of self-produced albums. So yesterday's episode was called self-produced albums. Yeah.
Okay, so go check that out. Contrarians. What about Pete? What don't you have coming up?
Well, Martin and I are going to be ranking the albums of new wave of British heavy metal band Witchfind on Friday morning. So that's the thing that's coming up that's imminent. I'm also tonight going to be debuting a ranking the album show for a cool like European melodic metal band called Eden's Curse. And I've got Stephen Reed and Simon Bray, my 2 guys over in the UK, are working with me on that one. So that's coming up tonight. And Sunday, if you guys are interested in the format, we do this show every Sunday called Album Homework Assignment, where we get 2 folks who appear on CH. I'm going to get you on one of these days, Hack, and we get 2 people on, and they each give each other an album that the other has never heard before. You get a week to live with the album, and then we come on the show, and each one talks about the assignment and what they liked about it or what they didn't like about it. So Martin and I actually just went head-to-head on last week's show, which was a lot of fun. A lot of people seem to be enjoying that. So we're doing that every Sunday. So usually what I do is I get the 2 people that I want to participate together a couple weeks ahead of when they're scheduled to tape the show. So at least they have time to work out and find out what albums they would like to assign the other person. That's been a lot of fun. So yeah, that amongst all sorts of other things happening as well. But that's the stuff.
Well, there's another Guitarist Corner show coming up too.
Yeah, in the beginning of September. So we do that once a month, and Hack is on the panel for that each and every month. And I believe September's we're all going to be talking about some of our favorite Gibson players. So I think what did we say, 10 or 5? I don't remember what we decided.
I got to look at the email.
Yeah, I don't remember either. But yeah, so it's like a 2-part show. So in September, we're each going to be talking about our favorite Gibson players. So guys who basically just play Les Pauls or SGs or Firebirds or whatever. And then in October, we'll be going the Fender route. We'll be talking about our favorite Stratocaster and Tele players. So
cool.
That's all coming up.
All right, awesome. Okay, hang tight, guys. So I want to thank everybody for watching. We got 51 people in here. Thank you all so much. If you want to help support the Hack channel, I have links below for T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, all that kind of stuff. There's also PayPal there. If you are not part of my Guitar Hack Facebook group, the link is down there. There's a Guitar Hack Facebook page, a Facebook group. There's Instagram. All that stuff is down there. And if you are not subscribed to the Guitar Hack channel for shows like this, please consider subscribing and make sure you hit the like on the way out. All right. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the show. And take it easy. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.